Okay, the recording stream is good.
All right, welcome everybody. My name is Kartik. I'm one of the co-founders of ETHGlobal, and I'm going to say hi to everybody on this call for HackFS judging. So HackFS, for those of you who don't know, was a month-long hackathon in partnership with Protocol Labs from the ETHGlobal side, and we're super excited to have all of you here for showcasing all of our demos for this event. So over the past month, we've had 470 hackers from 50 different countries and 19 different time zones work on interesting projects that make the best mix of Ethereum and the Filecoin ecosystem. And we've seen 132 projects come out of this event. So we're taking this entire week showcasing all the projects that came out of this event from all of our hackers to everybody else out there. And we're also using this same opportunity to judge these projects by inviting a lot of notable people and important people from the Filecoin and Ethereum ecosystem to give us their feedback and comments on how these teams can make these projects even more better. So before we jump into all of our demos, I want to quickly walk through the logistics of not only how the event was set up, but also how judging itself is going to work. So today we're going to see about 14 teams come on and showcase what they built. And each team will have 4 minutes for a demo, and we'll then have a 4-minute Q&A session. And just to minimize any technical difficulties, we've asked all of our teams to pre-record the demos. So when they come on, they'll be playing their demos, and then we'll move into a live Q&A. In terms of how everything else was set up for HackFS, a project could have up to 5 team members, but it was also okay for you to work individually or with less than 5 people. And everything we're going to see today was written over the course of the hackathon, which is a period of 4 weeks. And the only rule and criteria for being eligible for submitting a project was that they must incorporate the tools and technologies from the Protocol Labs and the Ethereum ecosystem. So we have a really good mix of projects that take the best of decentralized storage and smart contracts. And we're super excited for everybody else to see that too. In terms of how the projects are going to be judged. We're going to be looking at it from how technical, original, and practical a project is, and also how usable it is from a usability standpoint. And we recognize that these 4 categories may not be enough to fully evaluate a team. And that's why we have a category that we like to call a wow factor to account for anything that we have missed on the categories above. And before I move into the demos themselves, I want to really emphasize that this event is not structured to be a competition. The hackers are very much here to learn, and they're here to share their excitement. A lot of them are beginners to both of these ecosystems, so they got this 4 weeks to play with and see what's possible with Filecoin and Ethereum, and they really want to just share what they built for this event. And judges are primarily here to give feedback and help you understand how to take this to the next step. And not everybody is trying to become a business. So we want to be really mindful of the fact that we'll see a whole variety of different projects at their different levels of development, and we're here to recognize that this is intentional. So with all of that said, these are going to be the teams that are going to be presenting today. And what I want to do is, and actually before I get into that, I want to make sure I recognize the 3 judges that are going to be doing the hard job of giving the feedback and being with us live. I want to welcome Spencer Noon from DTC Capital. I want to welcome Mikeal Rogers from Protocol Labs, and Bryant from the Vyper project. And with all that said, I want to welcome our first team for today, and that is Team BlockSig. So I'll have Swaroop come and kick off with their demo.
Hey everyone, thanks Kartik. I'll get started.
Welcome to BlockSig's demo for HackFS 2020. We have built a notarized document signing solution backed by proofs on Ethereum and encrypted files on IPFS. We simply deploy our front end via Fleek's hosting service. We get a custom domain. Let's open that. So the user experience is very similar to that of DocuSign. So you just simply upload a file like an NDA, fill in the information of the person who's trying to notarize it. We add the signers. We can add as many as we want. We can then go through the document, make sure everything's filled up and the signature blocks are in place. Let's hit submit. At this point, there's a unique identifier that's added to the PDF with all the information stored on it. We encrypt it to ensure that the IPFS file is not readable by anybody else. And then we send an email with the confirmation request to the notary. As we can see here, this is the transaction. This is the first step of the smart contract. Now at this point, a backend receives an event and sends out the request for the signatories to go ahead with their signatures. So let's open up those emails. So even this file is actually being rendered from IPFS through Space Daemon. We can make sure that the document looks good. Hit submit. So this makes another transaction. As you can see, it's still pending. Let's go and make the second request. So once this transaction gets confirmed, we will receive a signed event, and that actually preps the document for it to be notarized by the notary. As you can see, an email has been sent, the notarization request here, and this is the final step. We're good to go. So each of these signatures that we do, we're storing the proofs on IPFS in an encrypted manner, and then we store the hashes of those on Ethereum to ensure that it's not been tampered with. At this point, the backend is going to combine all the signatures, mark the document as final, take the final hash, and then make yet another transaction. Once that transaction gets placed, the transaction lifecycle completes, where you can now check for proof of the entire document signing along with the PDF that's been stored. We can open this file. So we can see here, this is the final document. It'll contain all those signatures. Proof of these are on-chain, and signatures itself are also on IPFS. So I'm going to download this file. Now this is the interesting part, right? So how do we verify this document? I'm going to copy this link. Let's say the backend server is down, or if the notarization system goes out of business. The beauty of how this has been built using smart contracts is we can always fetch the proof using Ethereum and IPFS. So I'm going to show you the example, putting that file in. It's making those calls with MetaMask, and it's able to fetch all of this information. Our open source code base, as long as we're on the same network ID, we're able to get the original hash that is also stored, and then all the checks are done based off that. More information is on our GitHub for you to go and check it out. All right, so that was our demo.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And with that, I'll kick it off to our judges for any feedbacks or comments.
The demo went a little fast, but I just wanted to check on something. There was a stage where you said you can see that the transaction was still processing, but it looked like the UI had already completed. Is there a disconnect between the UI saying that it's submitted and the actual transaction completing, or was that just like a demo tweak?
Well, that's mostly due to Ethereum, right? So when you do submit the transaction, it still has to get mined, which hopefully with other networks, it'll be almost instant. So that's just what I'm trying to show, that, once there's a certain delay to it. But apart from that, the user will be notified whenever that transaction gets confirmed.
Okay. So beyond just the sort of UI that, hey, it was submitted, there's like an email later that says like, oh, it was all processed. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Because this is meant for end users who probably don't know much about blockchain. So we're not trying to show them too much about, I mean, for the purposes of a video demo, I showed it what's really happening behind the scenes, because it took us a lot of effort to build this. But, I built this in mind with Onomet, for regular users who are just doing things on paper right now.
How are the keys stored that sign the transactions?
So this uses a service that we actually built a couple of years ago, but it actually can also be handled by the notary itself. So it's fully open source. So whichever entity is running the service. So in this case, of course, I showed you a demo by BlockSig itself, but it could be white label, and that particular entity will be signing on the main chain. Because the end users, they probably don't want to be worrying about installing MetaMask to sign proofs. But the signatures and the hashes are still stored on IPFS and Ethereum, so they can always verify as long as they trust the party.
Okay, yeah. As a suggestion, there's a couple other newer ideas around that. I forgot the name of it, but one of them it's very simple. It's like a cookie that is split between like a server and a client. Yeah, Taurus.
Yeah. So we sort of discussed that to use it, but again, even that is yet another new service. So like in this experience, as you notice, they're just using email, right? Which uses the Oracle to send out the proofs. So sort of they send out the tokens. So that's what we wanted to keep that easy, because that would be yet another service that they have to sign up for. But hopefully, I think it's getting there, because when I first saw the demo to what it's been launched a few months ago, it's closer to what an end user would want to use. But yeah, thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think great job. It looks very kind of like a Web 2 DocuSign type app. So I could see myself or other people using this with some improvements, obviously. I'm curious what the
I'm not a front end developer. That's why it looks so bad.
It doesn't look that bad.
We
if I'm
actually
being
got
honest.
into. I assigned a VC term sheet. How I got into 500 startups was through something like this. I built it as a very simple demo way back, and when this opportunity came up with HackFS, I was like, this is where truly I can build a real app around it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to understand what the biggest challenge that you guys had to overcome to ship this, and then maybe also understand, like, are you going to continue working on it? What would you do if you had more time?
I would definitely want to improve the UX, especially the signature part and things. Those are very complex to build. As you notice, it's like this, because the wet signatures was something that was being discussed when I spoke to the notaries, like they were not okay with like just an email signature, right? So that part I would want to improve with a better front-end library. The other challenges were just making sure the Fleek, the space daemon encryption stuff works. That was new to me. That's something that I always wanted to do on IPFS. I think it almost works well, but what you don't see in the demo and why you see the speed up is because I had to do it over and over because it would crash or things like that would happen. And if we had more time, we would probably.
Sorry, what specifically was crashing?
The space daemon client itself. It's something I had not used in the past. We actually changed our idea, and I had like 3 days to build this. So on the second day, I was interacting with space daemon, and it was constantly crashing on my local. But on the server, it works fine. So if you actually visit this website, I managed to get that working since the hackathon ended.
Cool.
What were you using for encryption?
It uses, I believe the client actually takes care of all of that for us. It's something very new that they built. It uses textile encrypted buckets. And I believe the encrypted file actually goes on IPFS. So you can actually see the hash. It's just that you cannot decrypt it unless the keys are available to the user.
Gotcha.
Awesome. And that's time for our very first project. So congrats.
Thanks, everyone.
Both of you again for participating in HackFS as well. And with that, we'll move on to our next demo, and that is team and project Myel. So I'll let them kick off with the demo.
Hey, we're Myel, and our aim for this hackathon was to facilitate retrieval mining. We did this by solving 2 problems. The first was how to help more miners join the Filecoin retrieval market, and the second was how to optimize content delivery for clients. To solve both of these problems, we developed an architecture with low-level Filecoin building blocks. In the architecture we developed, a miner can immediately start offering retrieval deals by subscribing to a faucet node, which provides CIDs for the miner to import. This slide provides a high-level diagram of how this is implemented, and let's now dive into the different parts that make up this architecture. First, let's cover how data deals are sourced. A miner can run our retrieval client on top of their Lotus node. The retrieval client can discover another type of node, which we call faucet node, via libp2p and subscribe through GossipSub to get immediate access to a stream of CIDs. The retrieval client then sends back events about the CIDs they serve. Events include information about any client requesting the CID, as well as metrics surrounding the data transactions. For example, the location of the client or the latency of the network transaction. Meanwhile, the faucet node writes in a database which miner was assigned to a CID and the events resulting from that pairing. Recall that events describe data transactions and are published by the retrieval clients. The faucet aims to match a retrieval miner to the CID, which maximizes the potential amount of Filecoin they can earn. It does so by using a prediction model trained on the database of events. We'll go into more details about the database and prediction model later. But how does the faucet know which CIDs are available to match with a miner? Clients who want to store their data publish their CIDs to a GossipSub topic the faucet is subscribed to. The client is incentivized to implement this procedure because the faucet will ensure that they have more options to retrieve their content. As of yet, we've implemented everything we've described so far except the prediction model. To help miners visualize the data being retrieved and the amount of Filecoin earned over time, we've also developed a dashboard which sits on top of the retrieval client. Now, let's cut to the demo. Because of the number of miner, client, and faucet nodes required to fully test our system, some parts of this demo are mocked. So you can see that we already have a faucet node and a retrieval node running. And in the UI for the retrieval node, we can see that we've detected a new faucet, and we can just click on Start to initiate a new handshake. And here you can see that we received a new CID in return to retrieve content. So this UI allows us to visualize critical information as a retrieval miner. In this first pane, you can see past market deals. In the second pane, you can see stored pieces of data. In the third pane, you can see network peers we're connected to. And finally, we have a settings page where you can input your hardware configuration. So this configuration is sent to the faucet node to optimize data deal. Now that you've seen our system in action, we need to address where we would like to take this project. we need to first populate the database with events data. Using the event data stored in the database, we can train the prediction model. This model would take in data X associated with a CID. This could be, for example, the country where this content is most popular. In tandem, the model also takes in data X prime about a specific miner. For example, this could be the miner's IP location. And taking in X and X prime simultaneously, the model aims to predict a label gamma, which would be the amount of Filecoin collected for a given miner CID pair. Subsequently, the faucet associates a miner with the CID that the model predicts will generate the most Filecoin. We hope you've enjoyed this overview of our project. We're a 2-person team who are supported for small parts of this project by 3 other teammates. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Awesome. There's a lot to cover in that demo, so I'll have some of our judges kind of dig in.
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat back to you what I saw just to make sure that I have the full frame of everything. So it's looking at the chain and the existing retrieval deals to know which pieces of content are being retrieved pretty often, or it's only relying on CIDs being proactively added into this retrieval network.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do for this is to just create a faucet that has a list. Right now, we hard-coded the list, so we didn't really focus on the way we were sourcing the actual deals. But the idea is that we are listening to a gossip subtopic, so clients can actually publish CIDs there in order for it to maximize their chances of getting more options later.
Okay, and so those are the payload CIDs, right? For each.
Yep. This is like the content CID.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Trying to work through all the details of that. So it's going out. It's doing a retrieval. It's keeping an unsealed copy of that to do retrievals on at a lower price than what you're going to get out of a miner, right?
Well, sorry, could you repeat that question exactly? You're saying...
So when you decide to fit in the network and you say like, oh, I'm going to, it then does a retrieval deal with the original miner, gets the data out, and then keeps an unsealed copy of it around to do retrievals on at a lower price, I would imagine.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Cool. There's definitely some more variables that you want to put in your model, but other than that, I think that this is like a relatively solid idea. I think a few people are actually working on it.
Yeah, we just wanted to get the proof of concept for the architecture overall, but this is definitely very low level and needs quite a bit more development. So yeah, this was just to get the whole system running, and then we can work on the details as we go.
So maybe it would be helpful for just generally for us, like for those who are not super deep into to this ecosystem, can you give us a good overview of like, what the importance of retrieval market is and sort of why you decided to focus on this?
Sure. So we were this is kind of like a part that is currently not very developed on the Filecoin and the current Filecoin implementations. But the idea is that you can improve the performance of retrieval by having more options and more miners. Actually store the data on a hotter layer, so in a layer that is quicker to get. So it's essentially like a content delivery network where instead of getting a miner which would be far away and might have quite latency, you have more options. And so the idea is like we kind of create this broker market where a miner can enter it and immediately start offering deals without needing to have a huge setup. So it's kind of for smaller miners to join the market and create kind of a more localized network where peers can grab content really quick from someone who's nearby, as opposed to from the same miner all the time. Sorry, it's a pretty big topic at the same time. So my overview was
big and very crucial piece here.
Yes,
that's awesome. Maybe if Bryant or Spencer have any kind of comments or clarification they would like, we'll give them a chance for that. But if not, we
did you. So as far as the model goes, did you do any work in at least drawing it out on what that would look like? And like maybe simulations or something in Python.
No, we haven't implemented that yet. I think the idea would be to collect some data first and foremost, so to start populating that database when this thing goes live. And once we have some data, I think we can start to think about what kind of model we would want. But right now, it'll just randomly return a CID. And that's a good way, actually, to cast a wide net and gather a lot of data, is just to return a random CID at the moment.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do think it is really smart to kind of localize what content with the people who want to retrieve it.
Yeah, and it's a good way to improve market efficiency. I mean, there's similar things that go on in financial markets, so it's not unheard of to do these kinds of things.
There's also some huge costs in retrievals as well. Like if you don't set up fast retrievals when you set up the mining contract, then you're going to have to pay the unsealing cost, and that's not only going to take like hours, but it's going to cost like the majority of the retrieval is going to be the unsealing cost. So any market where you're keeping around unsealed copies is going to be able to offer like retrievals way cheaper. So yeah, like this is like a space that we kind of know is going to expand.
Yeah, nicely done, guys. What are some of the kind of most pressing future optimizations that you would make or are planning to make?
I mean, right now we just want to get it to install on some miners. So what we're really interested in is seeing the UX coming from a miner. The idea is to get it used and to start gathering data to see if it's actually understandable. So I think there's a bit of a barrier of entry for people to actually understand what's going on, understand, how you install this and what are your options. So I think we ideally want to focus on onboarding miners and testing this out, and obviously joining the testnet. So actually seeing some real deals happen.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, that's time for this project. So I want to thank you for demoing, and hope you continue working on this thing and be ready for the launch. And with that, we'll move on to our third team, and that is Project EduVault. So I believe Jacob is here on this call. Jacob, if you can hear me, I just have a quick clarification. We have to play your video, but I have 2 video files, a 2-minute pitch and a 4-minute demo. Which one do you want us to play? You're muted, by the way, so I can't.
The 4-minute demo.
Perfect. Okay, so the video I saw in the chat is a different one. So I'll cue that up. And,
oh, sorry.
no worries. So next up, I'll be playing Jacob's video.
I'm Jacob Cohn Rosenthal, educator, programmer, and creator of EduVault. EduVault is a user-owned database that lets users take their educational data from app to app. This record of their progress is crucial for AI-guided education. But the AI will need to know everything that you know. Do we really want to give mega corporations that much personal insight? How do we sidestep this dystopia? By letting users own their own data. EduVault harnesses Web 3.0 technologies like IPFS and textile threads to give users complete ownership and control of their data. Now, AI-guided education is still in its infancy, but we can already provide strong value to current users by increasing the interoperability of educational apps. In my own teaching, I've discovered that when I used a lesson creator with flashcard prompts, a flashcard app, and a classroom game, they all used similar material, but they were not interoperable. Let's check out our MVP. For our MVP, we made a simple flashcard app with multiple login options. Changes are synced using textile threads. Images are saved to textile using textile buckets. We provide a way for users to see that their data is actually getting stored on textile. But once we work out the kinks, we'd like to put this syncing into our main app. Interplanetary flashcards uses spaced repetition algorithms to plan out your studies for the most efficient studying. More than that, it has a browser extension that lets you take notes, highlights online, make flashcards from them, and have them sync to your review. This just shows you some of the opportunities that are available when our educational data is more interoperable.
I'm Mikeal Mohammed, and I explored the problem space in regards to the product development and user experience. Interoperability, data ownership, and privacy means little if these tools are built to be black boxes to the general public. We provide the optionality of choosing the trust model for the users when interacting with EduVault. The goal is not to create another walled garden with a limited scope, but to allow for true interoperability. As a student, I need to be able to gain perspective on how I use my personal knowledge base. I should be able to easily share and collaborate with peers, instructors, and area experts to gain complete mastery in key subject areas. I should be able to choose and utilize the tools that best help me learn based on my personal needs and learning style. Many applications exist that can consume, remix, and create these datasets in drastically different manners, but it is necessary to provide context and functionality to the information and knowledge that I consume. To build on Alex Ohanian's key takeaway, it's all about the UX. If the user experience and added usability is not drastic improvement on already existing systems, the technology is not serving its intended purpose.
One of the biggest challenges that we encountered in our project was about authentication. How do we provide a familiar Web 2.0 experience, let users sign in, and provide them with the security and ownership of the data that they deserve? So how do we avoid letting the client or the server see these private keys? I'd like to give a shout out to the Textile team, to Carson and Andrew, for spending a lot of time on Slack and Zoom helping us figure out some of these problems. I think we found a great solution. The next step is to make EduVault as easy as possible for developers to just drop into their app, where they don't even need a backend. We need more crypto wallet support, better native app support, more blockchain persistence and backup options, and much more. It's a challenge, but we've got a great start.
Awesome. That was a really cool demo. So I'll let our judges kick in with some questions and comments. And
yeah, this is really, really cool. I think I could definitely see myself using something like this and other people too. I'm curious, how much did you guys develop for this hackathon versus what was already, it seems like you might have been building this for a while.
Yeah. There's kind of like three parts. There's the in the middle during Akil's part, you saw that was his UX design, and that's for like the next version, right? And then there was the MVP, that was the flashy cards thing, and that was all built during this time, and that's using Textile. And then there's the third part, which is IPFC, Interplanetary Flashcards, which is an app that I've been building for almost a year now, and I'm using it to study for the GRE. So you can use it if you want to.
That's awesome. You're your own power user.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the UX stuff was done for the hackathon specifically.
awesome. And maybe just a quick clarification, Akil, was that a mock-up for the mobile design, or was that an actual screen recording of the mobile app that you already coded?
That is a mock-up.
Right.
Because there's a few things still required from Textile to actually make it fully functional. Once those click in, we can get something working.
Awesome.
Yeah, because right now the MVP that we made, it's a very tight link between the front end and the back end. But the idea is to make an independent, like basically like an OAuth service, so that an app could let a user sign in with EduVault, and then they'd be synced up to the same database. So we need to make like a separate third party like sign in page, and we're missing a few features from Textile, but they're working on those.
I think it was a very ambitious project overall. I had a question though, like how do you see other people coming in and contributing towards the content and helping spread the EduVault gospel, if you will?
Yeah, so that's because it's almost like, you're trying to get people to adopt a standard, you know, and that's and although the format of the data in it's basically just a thread DB, right? And that you can share with you between apps. But so we actually don't say what format the data in has to be. So it's agnostic in that way, but the apps can just kind of examine what's in there, or we can make a registry. So it's not a standard in that way, but it is like one login, right? And so how to get other apps to adopt that, I guess the key is like for open source projects, you can like make a plugin. Like there's a flashcard app called Anki, very popular. We can make a plugin for that to get people to start adopting it. And the key is just to make like really useful apps in the moment that are very useful right now, and then kind of build up like, oh, this also works with this. This also works with this, and then that will slowly build an ecosystem.
Also, to build on that, I think if the data is there and we're giving users the optionality of taking it anywhere, you really don't have lock-in effect. So technically, if it's on threads, you can tag and use that information on EduVault and then take it anywhere you want. So I don't think there's much lock-in in that regard.
Yeah, like we'd like people to be, for every educational app to be like sign in with EduVault so that they can access it immediately. But on the other hand, we could you could let the user they could get their private key and then use it on another system or something as well.
One thing to consider, I think one thing that's really fascinating about this technology is it has like a lot of aptitude to be gamed, and you can kind of leverage a lot of game theory and maybe introduce like an element of like really fun interactions into the system and use that to help build like a more viral response and get more adoption of this over time.
Totally, that's a great idea.
Awesome. So with that, we are at time. And now thanks again for a really cool demo. I hope you keep working on the mobile app. It looks super cool. And we'll move on to our next demo, and that is Project DFame. So Jonathan, if you're here, feel free to kick off with your
Perfect. I'll get it started.
Welcome to DFame, our vision of evolving digital communities. The current social media ecosystem. Creators need to create massive followings quickly in order to sustain themselves. Since they also don't own their content on these platforms, they're at risk of losing all of their work based on the whims of companies like Facebook. Fans also have no incentive to participate other than just blindly consuming media. So we took a look at some trends in the market for both fans and creators to see if there were any opportunities to innovate in this space. Creators are always looking to find new ways to receive funds, such as signing up for monetization platforms like Patreon. Fans are looking for new ways to contribute to creators, like exploring token usage. Based on these insights, we propose a new and exciting way to turn your community into a shared economy. By leveraging blockchain as a foundation, DFame enables users to control their own data, provide exclusive incentives, create their own token, and ensure that their communities are self-governed. So how does DFame work? You launch a token for your community. Anyone who wants to become a co-owner purchases this token. Each interaction within your community grows the value of the token, and everyone benefits. What do these members of your community see and get when they join? 3 concepts we're exploring are flows, streams, and shop. Flow allows you to communicate with membership. Stream uses the popularity of exclusive videos to creatively connect with fans. Shop enables communities to sell unique branded digital products similar to Unisocks. Now let's take a look at the app.
This is the DFame demo. When you first open up the application, you create a user profile where you get to see both the number of members that you have, the number of followers, and the total number of tokens that your community holds. When you create a video, we first choose a video title. We pick the video that we want to upload. And we specify the amount of tokens that's required to unlock access to the video. The token name, and then we click publish video. Now our video has been uploaded. Going to the feed, this is a DFame main video feed. Here you can see all the current videos that are trending. Already we can see the new video that we've uploaded and see that it requires 12 TING videos to unlock. Upon selecting it, it shows us that we already have the necessary tokens to start watching the video. Now the video plays. We have full playback control, as well as the ability to pause, control the audio, and go full screen. DFame is built on 4 main technologies. We use 3box for managing user profiles and video metadata like title and description and token amount to unlock. We also work with Roll, which does the personal token minting as well as access to users' wallets. IPFS for video metadata storage, and Abridged to do efficient layer 2 technology for fast and scalable transactions.
Our next steps for DFame include an initial test period to gather more feedback for our targeted app launch by the end of 2020. We hope to see you on DFame and can't wait to create with you and your communities. Thank you.
Amazing. It was a really cool demo, so I'll kick it off to our judges for any questions or comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, so quick question. So that kind of showed me what you have working. What do you not have working in the kind of TikTok parody right now?
That's a question right to the meat of it, isn't it? What's not working? So what's not working is the user onboarding flow for converting fiat to currency. Right now, we redirect the user to a Uniswap fork that Roll has for exchanging Ethereum to the target personal token, but we don't have the onboarding yet for exchanging, like doing the wire integration for exchanging fiat into Ethereum or DAI, and then having that exchange happen into the personal token. That onboarding flow is kind of rough, no matter what technology it seems like you can use right now. And so we're working on trying to find a clever way to implement it.
Aside from the on-ramp, are there any other kind of, I guess, rough parts of the user experience that, I don't know if you had a magic wand that you could fix?
Sure. It's your rough part of the user experience. Video upload is, we do allow you to record from your camera phone as well as file upload. Although one thing I'd love to have is the ability to actually edit video within the app. Most video platforms have the ability to crop your video, maybe have a few simple filters to play on top. That seems kind of superfluous to have in the application, but these days that seems to be standard for a video social networking app.
Yeah, is there something about the crypto that doesn't let you do that, or is it just a function of your time? And I guess maybe a follow-up would be, is there something on the Web3 side that you would answer that question with too?
Oh, yeah. So that's just a matter of time. On the Web3 side, I think the challenge is video encoding. Right now, we're using video encoding within AWS to take the user's input file and convert it within to a type of data format that can stream at multiple data rates depending on the device, so it's optimal. However, there doesn't seem to be a great option right now doing that in a decentralized way. We looked at a little bit at PeerTube and a few other solutions, but they're still pretty young.
Got it.
I say that's our main point of centralization with the app right now, is the need for a centralized server to perform the type of video encoding that's required before serving video out to users.
Have you looked at LivePeer?
I've looked at LivePeer. There was a few minor technical challenges that we had with LivePeer to get it implemented. Okay.
One thing that I thought was really interesting is it seemed that when you first view the video when you're scrolling through the app, it kind of shows you a short, 3-second kind of GIF overlay. And then, so when you click on it, you're basically paying to access the full video. Is that
Right.
kind of how it's working? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because I wanted to make it a very visual experience that like you get to kind of taste a little bit of the content before buying it, because buying it is kind of a big, step for the user. So I want to make sure that they have a general understanding of what they're buying before they get it.
Yeah, that was a clever UX little hack there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Awesome. So if there are no more questions, I think we're at time. And with that, I want to thank DFame for showcasing this cool social network, and we'll move on to our next demo.
Thank you, folks.
So I am super excited for our next hacker to present what she did. So I'll be playing her video, and then I'll have Martha come on after to answer any questions from our judges. So just give me 1 second to set up, and we'll get started.
I joined HackFS because when I saw that it was a 30-day event, I thought that was a good way for me to learn about Web3 and anything else that was involved with it, and have it in a condensed form over a specific period of time, other than just reading something, a blurb in a magazine, or ask questions over a whole bunch of different venues. I was rather amazed at what a hackathon really was. It seems to me as though a hackathon is an organized event to bring together a number of people who have an interest in the subject that the hackathon was presenting, and learn how to use and try themselves and come up with, in the end, a product. As a 73-year-old, I didn't have a clue what coding was, or programming, or how to write anything. So in the matter of 4 weeks, it was going to be a real job to learn everything anybody else at the presentation already knew, after probably a few years of doing some learning at a minimum, and then come up with a project to boot. And I decided, rather than trying to do a thing to build an app, that maybe I would tell other people about this. There was a lot of information early on in my research that said that people had a vision about how a new web would be created. And I thought their vision was well thought out and surprisingly held together, even as we moved on into a few years later. And I wanted to try to catch that essence of the fact that this was something new and exciting, that people would, in 50 years, think this was a really important step in the direction of web development, of the use of the internet, and inventions. I mean, apps are essentially an invention because they're something that you use that somebody put together. For the HackFest, I'm producing an article that would cover the research that I've done to indicate just what Web3 is and what I hope it will offer us in the future. And I'm also adding to it an a audio of my thoughts with it to consolidate what some of my work has been.
Amazing. So maybe Martha, if you're here on the call, I'll have you just kind of give some additional context, and also ask.
I'm here.
Welcome. I want to thank you so much for being with us for the past month. I know you started from the beginning, and you had to catch up on a lot of things, but I'm super glad that you're you made it to the end and you presented and you submitted something to talk about.
Well, I kind of wheedled my way into this, so I had to stick it out and show that it could be done. And I'm really happy with so far what I've done, and I hope to continue.
Well, thanks for joining us, Martha. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, thank you very much for your intro. You kind of took my breath away with that. I had no idea the effect that this might have, and you've already helped make my goal possible, which is really to spread the word of Web3 to everyone, and not just the development group of people.
What was the most surprising thing that you learned over the past month?
Oh, I'll have to say that my most surprising thing was learning what Raspberry Pi was. I had as I said in my report, was that I wondered how baking got into this whole thing. And I didn't ask any of you when we were in the midst of it what it was, so I asked my family, and come to find out my grandchildren have a Raspberry Pi that they're going to learn how to code with. So I told them that I would come over and learn with them.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we like food when we talk about programming.
There are a lot of things that I learned with regards to how many people were really involved, how worldwide it is, and to be very honest, it's overwhelming. I also have been very happy to have been part of this. You people are all very positive, and you help us to feel involved, even me.
That's
Hi,
great.
Martha. I just want to say I'm so excited that you're here with us today, and thank you so much for coming on and being a part of this community. I think, you know, I've been doing this for a couple of years, and it always, you're never, I guess, fully surprised when something just comes out completely unexpectedly. But man, this is really cool, and it definitely made my day.
Well, thank you.
I'm curious how you came about this the hackathon, and if there's anything that you think, you know, we as a community can do an even better job at.
Okay, I have to fess up if any of you don't know. I have been involved with my son for a number of years, starting with his college years, and he has sent me information on a regular basis with what he's doing. And I have been curious about Web3 since he was involved. So when I did see the HackFest coming up, I really wanted to see what was going on. I am a scientist at heart. I love to learn. I love to know how things work. But that is how I really got pulled into this. And I have to thank Kartik very much for allowing me to join this, since I really am not any kind of a programmer or coder. And you were just making space for some little old lady with a crazy idea. But my son is Andrew Hill in textile.
Awesome. That's so cool.
I have to say, this is the first one that I felt compelled to tweet about. So I sent out a link to the GitHub repo, and I've been trying to bounce back and read the articles that you've written. So.
Well, thank you very much. And let me tell you, I really will help pass the word. I want people of all ages to know about Web3. I want it to get out there so people look into it. And I want it to be, when it really becomes online and people can use it, that they are ready to embrace it and go for it. I think it solves so many problems that have been going on within the web world, internet world. So you got me, and I guess I'll just keep trying to pass the word on.
No, this is absolutely incredible, and we're so thankful that you were able to be part of this whole event with us. I mean,
when I learn JavaScript, you might see me back again.
I can't wait for that moment to come on. I'll be looking forward to that. And yeah, I mean, kind of just from our side, the part of ETHGlobal is to ensure that we give opportunity to anybody who wants to learn about this thing, because we know that there's so much information out there, there's so much noise, and it's so easy to get either confused or overwhelmed with how you actually make the best out of what's possible, or how you keep up. And that's kind of why we do these events, so we can have a mix of everybody from all different backgrounds and experiences come in and learn from each other. And I think this is the best example since the beginning of ETHGlobal that I can say that definitively showcases that we've been on the right track to accomplish our goal. And I'm super glad that you're able to join us today. And I want to thank you again for taking the time, not only just to come on the demo today, but also just being with us for all the webinars, the tech talks, the workshops, and all the sessions you've been a part of. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words.
And with that, I'd like to thank you again and invite the next team on for the demo. So I see that DGallery is already here and set up, and I'll let DGallery take it away from here.
Hello, my name is Carl, and this is the demo of a application that we called DGallery. I worked with Adam and Juanqui on this effort, and DGallery stands for Distributed Gallery. It's a Android application, native application, that basically takes a photo gallery application and backs all the pictures onto IPFS. We created a automatic sync capabilities so that all pictures taken will be backed up to IPFS, and then you can open the pictures on IPFS via the IPFS gateway. We use Infura as a proxy to upload to IPFS. And just two words to mention here is that we use the simple gallery from Thibaut Caputa, which is GPL license, and this is the GitHub URL to access that gallery. We also used IPFS Kotlin library to ensure we could have like IPFS calls into Infura. So what's next? Well, we want to see what we can do by sharing with friends and family. So having the same application on different devices and having the ability to share with friends and family. And finally, the ability to sync onto a new device all your pictures. So what did we notice? Well, we noticed that the web is well represented. JavaScript is certainly the lingua franca of the Web3. But unfortunately, mobile is not. So very few libraries are trying to target Android or iOS, which makes native development a bit more complicated. React Native or native script could still be problematic because there's a lack of web crypto implementation there. But all in all, we had a lot of fun and we learned a lot while hacking along this month. So let's jump into the demo. So as you can see, this is a standard like emulator. If we click here, we open the gallery application. The gallery application, as mentioned before, was already open source, so we didn't really build this, but it's a standard gallery application that basically lists all the pictures that you've taken on this device. What we did is we added sync capabilities. So if you go to settings and you scroll all the way down, you will see an option that says backup media to IPFS. If you set this up, it starts the sync process. It takes a tiny bit of time here because I'm on a very slow internet. But as you can see, it uploads the images to IPFS one by one. It's taken basically from the database of all the images that are on the device, then loads them up into IPFS, then gets the CID and update the database with that ID. As you can see now, my gallery has been backed up on IPFS. And now if I go, you see the little icon there that says that it has been uploaded to IPFS. And now you can click on it and then it opens the image, hopefully, yes, on the gateway to IPFS. And that's our hack. Thank you so much for this amazing month and for all the information that was shared. It was a great success. Bye for now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll let our judges kick in with questions.
Yeah, just a quick question. So it looked like that was Android native. Do you have an iOS app, or are you using like a layer that will translate to iOS at all, or is that like basically like a separate kind of parallel app once you decide to do that?
That's probably going to be a separate one. We would try to. I mean, I really wanted to get a native layer. So it was quite a challenge because every time we were participating and trying to research some of the technologies, we always had like the kind of JavaScript that would come about. But every time we were trying to do anything in terms of native being Android or in Swift, like Kotlin and Swift, there was a bit of lack of tooling there. But certainly if we need to have like to create the iOS counterpart, we'll have to rewrite the same logic in Swift.
What was the most fun part about working on this? Something had to be fun.
Yeah, no. There was plenty of things that were fun. I think there was a lot of like playing around. I mean, like I haven't touched code for quite a bit, and I played around as well with kind of native scripts, React Native. I tried to use 3box and kind of hit a lot of walls along the way. And I genuinely enjoyed that. You know, I generally come and try to kind of figure out whether how to hack things together and then kind of like jump left and right. That's probably like I haven't done this for a while, you know, when you kind of like work into the evening. So that was really fun. Especially I was thinking with two other people, one who were based out of Mexico and a friend in London. But generally, it's been tremendously interesting and fun. A lot of content. I was completely new to the entire ecosystem. So yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, as someone who's tried to build on Android and with a native app myself with IPFS, I can definitely share your pain in that experience.
Well, I was at some point I was looking at I know there's like a mobile Go IPFS project as well. So like go down that path. But that similarly is kind of like the effort was quite high. So try to get to a solution as quickly as possible. Like the intention here is really just play around with the technologies and see what comes out of it.
Where would you take this next?
This stems from like okay, so my interest is more in data sovereignty, and actually like my belief is kind of like, you know, where the structure of like, you know, it's quite ridiculous that every time you use a service on Web 2, you know, you have to upload it to every different parties, being Instagram, Google Photos, something similar. Yeah. And so the way that I see it is like your mobile device is probably the one that leaks the most amount of personal information, much more than your browser. And so can you create a way in which all that information is not, you don't stop it, you just like control it better. So having like that represented on IPFS in which you control everything, but you still give access to parties, let's say, to find faces in your picture. And so it's kind of structuring the underlaying to achieve this is probably where I want to take this. And the photo application is probably the one that is the most personal, so starting from there. But ultimately is having, let's say, all the data generated from a device controlled by the user itself, and then giving the capabilities to application developer to then use that data for its own benefit. But yeah, for now, I think like the next step would really just be to sync two devices together. I really want to basically re-implement, you know, kids and my wife, and all my pictures are constantly shared with my wife. But then you get scary stuff where Google tells you, like, here's the last 7 years of your kids. and it's scary thoughts that they know so much about my kids who are not even 18. And so like recreate that in a sovereign way is what I would like to achieve. It's kind of my intention.
Very cool. Sounds like a great learning experience you had.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Amazing. So well, I hope you keep working on it, and hopefully we'll see a better version of this thing for the next hackathon.
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And with that, we'll move on to our next demo, and that is Project Box and Drop. And as a quick note, after this next demo, we'll take a quick 5-minute break so our judges can get some coffee and stretch, and then we'll resume everything back at the halfway point. So I'll be playing the video for Box and Drop, and looks like Mikeal is on this call, but just give me 1 second to set up.
Hi guys, I'm here. Hello. And at the beginning, I really want to share my emotions because really it was a great journey for all this stuff. And today I have a really great news because today I got an approval from App Store. So I think next day this application will be in App Store and everybody could use it on everyday basis. So let's start with your questions, and probably I can tell you more about the idea and how it could really, from my point, make a good things as a mass adoption for IPFS.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I like the video. It's this is a cool concept as someone who used to play a bunch of Pokemon Go a few years back. Yeah, it's so I'm curious. Why do you think using Web3 for the backend for this is really important?
Oh, it's idea because I'm a co-founder of a blockchain developers association in St. Petersburg, and we have more than 4,000 blockchain developers. The idea of this app was to show other people that IPFS and Web3 is not so difficult, is not complex for everyday usage. And here with this application, you can share files, because if you start this application using S3 from AWS or I don't know, Dropbox or Google Cloud for storing these files, the first point, it's not a crowdsourced, so there is one point of control and everybody could delete your file, etc., etc. And the second point, when you upload this file to Box and Drop, nobody could change it because you share hash files and you can create really another customer experience of file like APFS. From my point of view, it's like nature, because everybody could have an access to files using their hash files. And with Box and Drop as opposite of Dropbox, you can really have access to files which could be stored in different locations. And it could be probably as a platform which could help people to store their files in a totally new kind and provide totally new customer experience. It was significant. And of course, if I would buy more and more storage for AWS, etc., it would cost so much, or I should ask customers to pay. So I think it's a good point to go to Web3 and provide and show customers how it's simple to use IPFS, how to simple store files, and provide another level of possibility of sharing files.
Okay.
Have you put any time yet into the sort of security story around the location information? It seems like you would probably be able to just like look at the data structure at some layer and figure out where everything is without actually going there physically.
It's why I use Mongo database, which store all this stuff, and I use geospatial indexes to provide nearby boxes. And the second reason, because Apple has so strict rules to information we could share using iPhone apps, have to manage maybe some information concerning violence or sexual harassment, etc., etc. So probably if some people provide me that it's not author's information in these boxes, we have to remove it. Otherwise, I store only IPFS hashes and locations. So I think it's a good compromise between Web3 and current ecosystem of Apple applications.
I think it's really clever, and I like you know, that you're kind of, it's just like as a game to show what can be done. It's a very neat idea. It kind of reminds me a lot of there's this geocaching craze that was like a couple years before Pokemon Go really went out, and I don't know if it was over in Russia at all, but it was just like, it was a very similar idea. You'd have little boxes at certain lat long coordinates that you can go to, and you can put stuff in and take stuff out. And this is sort of the digital version of that, which I think is really neat. One suggestion or idea, if you haven't heard of them before, is a company called Foam Space, FOAM.
Yes, I know them, yeah.
It might be interesting to see if it's possible to use that sort of more decentralized location indexing, and I think they have a better security story around that as well.
Yeah, and it was a really interesting challenge for me, because I had to learn this augmented reality from scratch, and it's a really difficult point. And probably there is some issues, of course, because for the moment GPS is not so stable, so sometimes the box is jumping, depends on the signal which comes to phone. But anyhow, from my point of view, it's a very, very effective way for scaling, because the backend is written in Golang, so it doesn't take any resources from servers, so it could serve maybe 1 million items of connected application, because Go is very, very effective, as you know, and it's written in Swift. So if your phone supports this augmented reality, you can start and use it day by day. And probably I really share with my friends, and each of them start to suggest their creative scenarios. So it's why I do not want to focus on, for example, you can create quest or geocaching, because many other people with different backgrounds could really create new ideas how they could use this product for their goals. And I think it's a really good point to provide product as is and check what will be next for them, what is the most interesting things which could be implemented on this platform.
Amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and demoing this thing, and a big congrats to having this being on the App Store. Can't wait for others to play with this thing, and do send us a note on how it goes starting next week. So with all that, I want to thank you again for demoing, and we'll take
Thank you very much.
Perfect. We'll take a quick 5-minute break for our judges, and I'll ask you to just turn your video off. And when we come back in 5 minutes, this is my signal. When all of your videos are back on, we'll resume the second half of our demos. We'll just wait for Spencer to confirm. Okay, perfect. So our team is here, and I will be playing their video. So let me quickly just get that set up. We'll get started.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to introduce to you the Beaton Overlay Network, which is a network that aims to provide a global overlay with plausibility for routing and storage. So nowadays, most of the peer-to-peer applications developed over libp2p are independent, as in peers connect only with other peers that they're interested in the same content and services, which is great, but it's not necessarily good for anonymity. So what we are aiming for is to somehow connect nodes across swarms, across applications, and mix requests and have some traffic that protects metadata about user actions. In order to do that, we define the Beaton overlay address space, where each node generates a private key and they get assigned an address in the overlay space. For example, imagine that this node gets assigned to the yellow neighborhood, and therefore they will also connect with other peers in the green and the red neighborhoods, and also to some of their friends. And in this case, while content still, domain-specific content remains within the local swarm, we can still mix and have some storage replication across friends, domain-specific swarms in the global overlay. In this case, we have 3 different peer trust levels. And in order to validate our assumption that in this way we can break down the clusters and have a topology that looks more like a random graph, we generated a small world network. And after assigning addresses to its node and connecting them with their overlay neighbors, we see that the graph looks more random. And we have some other theoretical analysis going on that I will be happy to share in another channel, but not like in the 4 minutes presentation. In addition, we have a mechanism for sharding the global overlay. In specific, we have developed the Beaton to work over BitTorrent swarms, and we are using the content addressable network, where each swarm corresponds to an overloaded content addressable network zone. And this can also be used by blockchain applications. So to sum up, yeah, the basic vision for Beaton is that we have swarms for application namespaces, but also for overlay shards. We can support flexible social trust models, and this is very useful for protecting against malicious nodes. We provide low latency routing and redundant storage. We are mixing messages around sender and receivers and across swarms to provide some plausibility, but we still allow for greedy routing over the global overlay network, which is also facilitated by supernodes, which is something that naturally emerges in BitTorrent. If you would like to see a demo of how BitTorrent works in the browser as an extension to WebTorrent and using the noise protocol for end-to-end encrypted communications, you can visit this link. And of course, you can always reach out with this email address. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to your feedback.
Hey, Marius, thank you so much for that detailed demo. Maybe I'll just kick off with a question first, and then I'll let the judges jump in. But what made you sort of pick this, and what kind of got you super interested in this problem?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I understand that this is a research project, and I haven't done much coding in over July. But it is very an early stage project, and feedback at this time, specifically from developers who are developing Web3 applications, will be very useful, since they are the target audience that could use such an overlay network.
Absolutely. Maybe one more thing, just so that this is more helpful for the people who watch this video after. But could you just quickly highlight what the benefits are of having an overlay network like this thing? Like, what would somebody be able to do now for them to kind of really understand the applications of something like this?
The main goal is to interconnect the different peer-to-peer applications developed over Lib2P, so that you can communicate with remote peers outside of your social graph, of your social circle, and doing so by hiding your network identifiers like your IP address.
Awesome. And with that, I'll see if any of our judges have any questions or comments.
Hey, so Baton as a project started a little while ago. Could you sort of tell me specifically like what you did in the month of the hackathon on Baton, like what wasn't there before and what is just there now as part of the hackathon?
Yeah, during the hackathon, we focused mainly on the mixing strategy, which is a little bit special compared to other projects, for example, like Tor and Clip and I2P, because it is mixing over a restricted topology, meaning that, for example, in Tor, the user can select a circuit, a path through the network that can go through any of the available relay nodes, while in Beaton, you are connected only through some trusted peers, and then your traffic can go only through them. Yeah, and that's what I've been focusing on for the last month. The implementation was made. Yeah, the demo implementation. We focused on that throughout mid-May to mid-June. Then we started working on the mixing strategies. Before that, we did an environmental scan on information controls. At some point, we also took a look at the overlay topology. That little donut, almost at the end of the of the presentation. It is a very broad and long-term project.
Yeah. If like, what more would you do you think you want to work on long-term for this project?
Getting anonymity right is very difficult, especially if you, the original idea for the hackathon was to take the prototype and release it as a Lib2P transport module. But this would only work, for example, if you would want to hide your IP address. We go through all this fast because we also want to protect against other attacks, for example, timing attacks or traffic analysis attacks. We also want to protect from malicious peers and civil attacks. So there's, it is a new infrastructure project. It's gonna, new ideas are more than welcome. It's gonna take some time.
Got it.
Any last comments from our judges? If not, Marius, thank you so much for demoing today, and hope you enjoy your evening, and continue working on making this research more application-focused reality. So with that, let's move on to our next team, and that is Azureus. So I'll let them come on and start with their demo.
This is Azureus Role Service, and this is the project we created for HackFS 2020. Roshan Kumar Chaudhary created the front-end app, Saumil Didwania created the smart contracts, and Shivam Sharma created the back-end server. We identified the lack of a frictionless transaction process at toll gates and designed a decentralized solution that allows a toll authority to conduct secure transactions by cutting out untrustworthy middlemen and on-chain verification. How it works is this idea has the potential to introduce much needed reforms in the traditional toll collection systems, which in many countries is still cash only. The registration will be swift and easy for users, who most likely will only need to share a picture of their driving license and email. For the registration process, access tokens will be verified via Google Auth. Once the user is registered, users will be able to deposit fiat money into the account. For us, it's a CDN currency. In the post-COVID world, contactless payment will be made via a QR code. The user will scan the code and the program will verify account balance by maintaining an ERC20 balance and transferring for each deduction, which provides automation and transparency. We use Fleek and Space Daemon for storage and encryption of customer and as well as toll data. Now I'm going to give the demo of the application. As you can see, if I sign in, it's done via Google Auth. I'm going to choose an account. This type of account will be a Toll Plaza account. I'm filling in the document ID as any placeholder for now. The car will be the price deducted for cars, truck, bike, and government vehicles which are exempted generally will be 0. Continuing. Now an account has been created. If you can see, the user info has my username, my document ID, a unique Ethereum address, and the form status. You can see the balance is 0, and I can generate a QR which corresponds to this toll. I'm going to use this for users. Now I'm going to create a user account. I'm going to choose a different account for this purpose. Now this will be a customer account. I'll be filling in the details requested. For the driving license, I'm going to place a placeholder again, and the vehicle number will be this. Now as you can see that the 4th and 5th digit is BK, which corresponds to that of a bike. Similarly, CR is car, TK is truck, otherwise it's the government. Now the user info is the username, license number, a unique Ethereum address, the vehicle number, and the form status. Now if you can check the balance, it's initially 0, but I can add money to it, in which case I'm going to mint my own currency, and that would be a CDN currency, which is the fiat currency. Now I waited some time, and as you can see, my balance has incremented and is now 100 CDN. Now I can use it to pay to a toll. I'm going to allow it and pay to the toll plaza. This is QR code we just entered. Now I waited some time for the transaction to go through, and if you can check the balance now, it's 90, 10 has been deducted as it's a bike. We can view the transaction details on the Goldly network, and it says that's a success. That was done 1 minute ago. Form into on the contract details. Now I'm going ahead and deleting my account, and this will revoke my account. Now I'm going to give a demo of how we're using Fleek as a storage. As you can see that the server is running on the back end. I'm going to send a request to creating a new user via Postman with the required details. You can see that it's being requested. Now I want you to notice the hash that is being used over here. It ends with JZM. Now we're going to go back to the Fleek UI on Fleek that it has been updated to the latest hash, and on downloading it, we can see that it has appended the following values.
Demo of the Space Daemon implementation. We are implementing this to enforce the encryption to a file system. So we'll go ahead with the demo. Now we'll hit on the API, which is create user, so that now you will see the server responses on the right hand and the Space Daemon responses on the left hand of the screen. So now the create user has been hit. So as you can see, the file wasn't there, so it says file do not found. We'll create a new file and then store it.
Can we pause the video real quick?
Comes back and
just I think it's way too fast. Let's use the YouTube delay and just slow it down one notch.
With that, we have a hash which has the value whatever it is stored, and now we'll go to extract the file from the storage, and then it will edit the file and re-upload it. So re-uploaded file will contain the timestamp with it, so that we can keep track of the latest file. So as you can see that it is extracting the file, it is reading. So future.
So I think looks like we had some internet issues there. So maybe you can just say out the last part on what the Postman demo was showcasing, and just kind of say that out loud.
Yeah, sure. So initially in the last part of it, we were trying to show how we are doing the encryption part using Space Daemon. Now we did it in our local host and not online. So that's been implemented here. And you can see that the hash is being generated, which corresponds to the user info. And we're using, whenever your user or create user is called, that goes ahead and revokes or creates the user in the database that we have.
Oh, awesome. So maybe one thing that'll be useful before we jump into the question from our judges is just in general, kind of what is your goal for introducing a project like this thing? Does this require private companies to implement this for tolls, or does it require you to convince some government body to do this thing? Like, what made you actually think that this is kind of the innovation needed right now in the space?
We wanted to streamline the toll process that is being currently used, and in most countries it's really slow and inefficient and it takes a long time. So we wanted to make it transparent, automated, and we wanted to make sure that secure transactions go through so that it can be streamlined and fast tracked forward.
Awesome. I'll see if any of our judges have any questions or comments.
Sure.
Gonna start picking on people. I feel like I'm not sure if it's the internet thing or Bryant, Michael, Spencer, any.
Yeah,
I'm digging into it.
I had a little bit of trouble with the video, so perhaps that's an internet issue on maybe, I don't know, on your side. But maybe what do you think was the most challenging technical aspect that you overcame in doing this project?
So as you can see in the video, we had to use that last part because it was tough to take it in one take, mainly because the space daemon kept on crashing in our system. And that was really frustrating to get on with it because the client, we tried it on first my system, then Roshan's, and then in the end, we got it done in Soumya's system. So that was a pretty challenging prospect to go through. Not only that, I would say that the app also had a few bugs initially. So figuring out those bugs, fixing them took some time as well.
Cool.
Could you elaborate a little bit on like where the decentralized technologies are and where you've had to kind of rely on some centralized pieces just to fill in some gaps with the existing infrastructure?
So we used Fleek's storage and Space Daemon to make it decentralized. We used BlockVisual's API known as ETHGlobal to build our smart contracts. And we're not using any central server per se. So this is all in a decentralized space.
Was this the first time you've played with smart contracts, or just
this is the first time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe before we move on to the next one, any last questions or comments from Bryant?
So seemingly this would work with like what's the word I'm looking for? Governmental agencies. There's a better word than that. How do you think this would integrate with like national digital currency initiatives that like you guys are from India, correct?
Yep.
I know they're looking into a CBDC there.
So we are thinking of making the entire process of a vehicle as a wallet. So that's what we have thought of our end goal to be. And we have many use cases prepared for this. Like we can use this for buses, trains. We're thinking about integrating image recognition as well, so that the process is more streamlined and we don't have to rely on RFID tags to get the cars moving more efficiently.
All right, thanks.
Great. Well,
I would like to give a shout out to Swaroop and Anumit for helping us take this idea forward.
That's awesome. We'll keep building on it, and I feel like this gives state channels a whole new meaning here. So congrats on demoing, and with that, we'll move on to our next demo, and that is Project Azureus. So I see they're here, and I'll let them start with their demo.
That was Azureus, wasn't it?
Oh, I messed up. Dataloft is what I meant. Yes. So Dataloft, if you are here, you can start with the screen share.
Twitter hack that broke into the accounts of former President Obama, VP Biden, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Uber, and others.
Okay, so
yeah.
So a few things that I wanted to show that we didn't get to show in the video is part of our registration process. So when you register at Dataloft, the main thing when we started building this that we want to focus on is keeping everything client side as much as possible. So what we did was we generated a Filecoin address on the account creation, and then we used 3box and MetaMask to generate the crypto identity. And then, so if I create an account here, what it actually will do is create a bucket for me, and then it's going to give me a Filecoin address to send 10 Filecoin to. And what this does is when you fund this address, when you would click this button, it will actually sign a transaction with the parameters of your account in the parameter section of the Filecoin message. So we actually encrypt your private key with your MetaMask public key. So if I provide that, then it will encrypt my password and my encrypted keys, and then it actually publishes this array onto the Filecoin blockchain. So you're able to recover your account from the actual blockchain. And then we use Textile Threads DB to save the user account locally as well. And then unfortunately right now the Filecoin chain reset today, and there's an issue with the signature, so this part is not actually working. But if I go to this tab, you can see our home page. So these are the files that I've uploaded into my bucket. And so if I want to upload a file, I could just upload this screenshot here. And then it will put it into a bucket. And you can see here, this is the bucket that it went into. And so if I open the bucket here, and one thing that we do when uploading your file is locally we encrypt the file actually in your browser. And then if you go here, these files, if I were to download this file, for example, and then open it here. If I extract that file, you'll see it just has this file here. That's the encrypted file. So if I actually rename this to So if I rename this to file.dataloft, you can, so I just saved this, and then I would go here and I can drop it in there. And then you'll see it downloads the zip, and you can see that the zip actually has the contents of the file. So it decrypts here in the browser, and then you get the decrypted version of whatever files you have stored here. And one thing that we're wanting to add is to where when a user creates their account, they publish their Ethereum public encryption key. So what we want to do is somebody wants to share a file with someone else that has an account with Dataloft, they would actually look up the record for that user on the Filecoin blockchain, and then they would take the public key of the that user and then encrypt their file to that user's public key, and then they could create a transaction that would also send a transaction to that user, and that user would get a notification that, hey, this person has shared a file with you. So that's still a bit into development. We're hosted on Unstoppable Domains, and we're using Fleek. And I think that we'll wrap it up, and we can take some questions now. So I will unshare my screen.
Well, first off, I want to say that was a very great music selection. I quite enjoyed that intro video. I was really rocking out to that. It seems like you guys did a lot of work over the past month, and it shows.
Yes.
So what made you want to use MetaMask specifically for kind of doing this key exchange situation?
We like the idea of using MetaMask because a lot of users use it. So a lot of people have it. And it allows you to basically manage your account from as long as you have your MetaMask, then you're able to access your private keys or anything to do with your Dataloft account. And there's other options that we could use as well, but originally we wanted to actually have everything done from the MetaMask as far as signing the Filecoin transactions, but after burning about a week on that, I realized that it's probably not really possible to do.
Just a totally random question. Is that one of those like spear desks that like roll back?
Yes, it is.
That's amazing.
So if Carlo wants to talk a little bit about his work, he did the file encryption. So I'll let him talk about that.
Hi guys. By the way, with regards to the encryption, we actually use a what we call the AES encryption. So basically, it's an in-browser which uses AES, MD5, and SHA-256 hash. So basically, if you have the file and you don't know the password, it's it's impossible to crack it down, because the way we do it is we actually hash it, so that, because in every hash, if there's a single value that is changed in that, it will not be equal. So we actually implement that one because, for example, like we know that there's a hack like on Twitter and it's an admin, and we don't want that because we as a user, like we want to have our own privacy, and that's been taken out of us without most people without knowing it. So here we actually introduced Dataloft, which is a day-to-day basis. For example, if you're a teacher, if you're a student, if you want to save it on the web, then you will have this Google Drive, right? We actually know Google Drive. However, we don't have the back end, or we don't know the tools or who's snooping on it, who's looking in it. And what if you have this important file that you don't want other people want to access it? So that's why we created Dataloft. So for us, the user, and for us, the Web 3.0, for the decentralized of the servers, instead of hosting it on one server, which can be hacked in case, because we know that not all systems are perfect. So if we encrypt that with a encryption that is on your browser, so you as a user has the confidence, oh, this is my file and no one could access it as long as I don't give the permission, I don't give the password. So
You want to sit there? You want to take some questions?
I'm sorry. Do you have any other questions? I'm sorry.
You mentioned MD5 hashing. What are you using that for?
For the file name. So here's the catch. Like first, we actually converted it to a file buffer and loaded it to a AES encryption. So once we have this AES encryption, then we have it's a bit more technical, but in layman's term, on the SHA-256, what's the question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, just you mentioned MD5 and SHA-256. I was wondering if you were using MD5 correctly because of the pre-image resistance flaws it has.
Yeah, we're still working on that one as well.
There's some other options that we could probably use that could be better, but for the hackathon, it seemed it was Carlos' first time learning a lot about encryption. So for the hackathon, I think that it was proficient enough, and in the future we can work on a more efficient system or a more secure system. But I think it's pretty good.
Awesome. So in the interest of time, we're going to go to our next demo. So I want to thank Dataloft again for that really cool demo, and congrats on getting that project up and running. And I hope you continue working on it. So with that, I'd like to call up Project Basic Vibe here, and I'll have them kick off the demo screen share.
Art, timeless, flawless, fearless, intuitive. A Project Basic Vibe. We want to unlock the power of the decentralized web for you, the artist, using Pinata Crowd, Ethereum, and the IPFS network. We make it easy for you to register your digital art. Secure your buy button and sell your unique artwork, all with a few clicks. With cryptocurrency payments based on Ether, we want to make it easy for you to connect with your audience. We want to make selling your art as easy and painless as buying a cup of coffee.
So Tony, maybe it'd be helpful for you just kind of walk us through what you wanted to do and sort of how close you got to it, and just have some commentary on the video. Oh, you're muted, by the way. Tony, you're muted.
Yeah, there we go. Right, thank you very much for the time. Yeah, Project Basic Vibe. So for HackFS, the idea was basically to try and create something simple because there's so many tools, you know, it was like a candy shop, but unfortunately not enough time to explore everything. So what we did with this particular project was that I worked in sort of like the art media publishing sector for a bit. And one of the things which has been really underrated is digital art originals and artists being enabled to kind of like sell those originals to their customers, sort of like buying a Monet, but a digital original Monet. So it's like, you know, you won't find a physical version of it, it's digital native. So the idea was to use Ethereum and to use IPFS and Pinata because they kind of made things easier for storage, and hopefully when the commercials come out, cheaper for artists to basically store their artwork online in IPFS. And then once they've stored it in IPFS, register on our site. And then they get a buy button, which they are then able to sort of paste on any other site that they want to paste it on, and then sell their artwork. So for example, in like an exhibition, you know, they would have like a digital buy button and somebody can click that and go via MetaMask and sell their work.
I couldn't find any of the code in the repo. Is that somewhere?
Yeah. We do have code. In terms of the code, just give me a second. I'll share that with you. Here we go. There we go. Share. All right. So this is the code that we have for the actual system, and then a quick summary of how it works is that you have Nina, who's a digital artist. She's going to create her little piece of digital art. She's then going to use Pinata to post that onto the IPFS network and host that. And then she's going to get her CID, which she'll then use to register on our site, which is hosted on Unstoppable Domains. And it's hosted in IPFS as well. And then as part of the registration, she basically interacts via MetaMask with a smart contract. And that smart contract will give her a bit of HTML code, which she'll then be able to post into her page, right? And then that will help her to create a customized buy button. Yeah. Then once that buy button is now in place, you have Jim who'll come along, right? See Nina's really great piece of digital art, decides he wants to buy it. He'll interact with MetaMask, which will work with his wallet. That'll work with the Ethereum smart contract again, right? When he pays the contract will give him the key. It'll give Nina her money, and hey presto, everybody's happy. In terms of the solution, it's using Unstoppable Domains, Pinata, Ethereum. It's primarily optimized for MetaMask from a Web3 perspective, and it's hosted on IPFS. So yeah, basic one, yeah. Any questions?
Well,
yeah, go for it, Bryant. You go first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, first off, really like how you set the vibe. That was a nice, relaxing song.
Thank you.
So have you had much experience with the Ethereum ecosystem before you got started on this hackathon?
Well, with the Ethereum ecosystem?
Yeah.
Well, I won the London Blockchain Hackathon in 2019. Is it 19 or 18? Okay. Too many years. Yeah. So yeah, quite a bit. And I've been working with quite a few people in the UK ecosystem with respect to sort of like blockchain. So
cool.
Quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking about the NFT ecosystem, and it's actually kind of interesting that there isn't a lot of crossover between Ethereum's NFT ecosystem and IPFS a little bit more. I think it's kind of a natural thing in order to just store artwork of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the kind of the harder problems with respect to it, because in terms of the work that I did, it's like working with a lot of artists who basically did all of their work purely digital. So, you know, it's kind of like they just sit on the computer and generate all of this really great stuff. And then it's like, you know, trying to find something that will be able to share it and commercialize it in a really sound way is very, very difficult. So that's why I came up with this, to see, you know, sort of like how we could do that and begin to bridge that gap, because I think that is the future in terms of artwork. I was talking to some galleries a couple of days ago, and the way they see it is that, you know, art needs to have a media, but digital is a media in and of itself. So yeah, I think it's basically about bringing more of that recognition. But the other thing as well is also, I really wanted to simplify the user experience with respect to Web3, because it's quite challenging. You know, I mean, I've been in tech for a while. So, you know, I want to bring people who haven't had that and who have very cool ideas, you know, so like the TikTok people, right? Because they're not going to sit down and figure out how to write Solidity or any of that. No. So if I could give them a nice buy button, then they could start doing some really creative things and, you know, take Web3 and the whole community in a really inspired direction.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really like the simple buy button. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I would wonder, I mean, do you have any interest in kind of adding like a token to the individual pieces of artwork? I think, like, you know, obviously we want creators to be able to sell their artwork, and I think a big piece of that is like the demand, like the buyer community, right? And people are increasingly conditioned to have tokens and to use them. And I think that also allows you, I mean, NFTs are great, but even with something like an ERC20, right, you can leverage this entire DeFi ecosystem that's kind of like being built before our very eyes right now. Yeah, curious if you like decided not to do that, or if that's something that you would maybe do with future times.
So from a token perspective, I kind of used Ethereum because the problem is the on-ramp with respect to that. And also it's sort of like, what are the rights that I'm going to give you? That's a kind of big unanswered question. You know, I got to go buy my original £1 million Monet and put it in my house. But does that also give me the right to actually go up and do a nice big billboard with that Monet and doing some sort of, you know, funky ad? With digital, it's kind of like those type of questions are still unclear, because it's like, if you're going to buy a digital original, then you might want to put it out on some physical media. And so it's kind of like, once we have some sort of idea of how we're going to navigate that, I think the token question will begin to manifest itself naturally, because I do agree there is a really strong space for that. It's just sort of like trying to navigate, you know, sort of like the ins and outs of the legalities around, you know, I've sold you a piece of artwork, right? But I didn't sell my soul. That sits around that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any other last questions or comments before we move on to our next demo? If not, well, thank you so much, Tony. I hope you continue working on it, and congrats on demoing.
Phenomenal. Thank you very much, guys. Take care now. Bye.
And before I quickly move on to the next one, I want to just point out that we had to skip one project, and that was Project Caramel, because the team has had a personal issue come up. So we'll see if they can be scheduled back in. Just make sure that you are mindful of that on your side as judges. And with that, I want to call up Project Prana, and I'll have them play the video.
It's a platform where each ebook is treated as unique entities, so that readers can actually own their copies. And on a platform, everyone can interact as either as an author or as a reader. So the cycle begins with an author going to the platform and publishing a book he passes in the title name and an ISBN number that he's already got, the price that he's asked, and a transaction cut. That's an author's cut for every subsequent transactions on individual copies. And of course, he uploads the book that he intends to publish. And the book gets published onto the platform, and it shows on the listing. Yes, it shows on the listing, and you can go as a reader, and then you can buy the content directly from the publisher. That's where a token gets minted. So if someone wants to consume the content, he'll have to go to the publisher first. And so he's bought the copy. Now this copy is owned by this particular reader. He can do whatever he wants to do with it. He can read it, and then he puts it up for resale if he wants to. He can ask any price that he wishes to ask. And that shows up on the listing where you can buy secondary copies that has already been bought by users and has been put for sale by the readers themselves. And so you can see that they have copy numbers associated with them as well. Copy number 1, copy number 2, etc. Each with uniqueness. And someone buys it and it comes onto his collection. He can read it. He can again put it for sale, or he can like give it away to his friends for free, like whatever that particular reader wants to do with it, basically. So you can see that this particular reader or the account hasn't bought any copies from the publisher or anyone. He's actually never spent any time on the platform, but because a friend of his has actually given away his copy, this particular guy becomes the owner of this particular copy, and he can again like read it or resell it or give it away to another one, or like keep it with him. He's the sole owner at this particular point in time, so he's able to do whatever, again, like whatever he wants to do with this particular copy. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, he's able to read, again, like put for resale, give it away for free.
Awesome. Love the soothing rain sounds in the background, and I'll let our judges ask the questions.
Yeah. Should I explain something more, or?
No, I think it was a great project. I think I really like to use the NFT idea for books. I think a lot of people consider books to be like content and consumable content, but really books can be art too. And I like the concept of unique ownership of a book. I think it's a really interesting idea, especially in the digital age.
Yeah, like, if you have a paperback, you kind of own it. It's your own. You can do whatever you want to do with it. I mean, no questions asked, right? There are secondhand bookstores, like physical brick and mortar bookstores, but you don't really have those kind of stuff in the digital realm, basically. So yeah, whether or not you can do that.
Yeah, it might be interesting to sell like a limited, unique supply of the books and see how it propagates across an ecosystem of readers, and maybe that'll be a different experience than just buying books from Amazon, ebooks from Amazon, or wherever you get them from.
Oh yeah, exactly. And like you have copy numbers attached to each of these tokens, right? So it's like, let's say you're publishing Harry Potter, and I own the very first copy of Harry Potter. So I then have, like, I can sell it for a premium if I want to, or it becomes a collectible in itself. And people might be willing to buy it for, I don't know, like, thousands of dollars if they are into that particular book and into that particular author. And yeah, stuff like that. And especially if the authors are actually given, if the authors asked like 20-30% of subsequent quotes, then a particular book that got sold for like $1,000, $2,000, 20% of that cut comes to the author as well. So yeah.
What was the most challenging part of building this out in the tech stack?
Okay. Oh, well, we actually had pretty big plans and everything. We kind of had, well, textile buckets. We went the textile bucket way, but for various reasons, the whole project went sideways towards the end. We had to abandon the whole thing, and it was pretty basic IPFS at the end. But yeah, and the contract a little bit, yeah. And if you guys want to explain more on that, Aishwarya and Mansoor.
Actually, we would like to get more on the encryption part and all. We hope to get it onto this at the end of the hackathon, but we couldn't. So our plan will be further work on that and stuff. Yeah.
That's
so many future plans, like renting books and all. Yeah. Like that on. We would like to work on that also.
Yeah. Renting's pretty much, I think, pretty much done on the contract side, but the UA and the further things that's couldn't finish it. I mean, it was pretty much like to the last minute submission.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All my questions were answered, but great job, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Congrats again. And yeah, this is a really cool idea. I like the NFT of real world stuff, which is something that's already existed, as you kind of pointed out. So with that, we have 2 more projects to go. So for our second last team, I'd like to call up Blue Coati, and teams are here. So if you are ready to go, feel free to kick off with your screen share.
So we are Team Coati, and with Blue Coati, we are building a prediction market-based curation system using off-chain betting. It is inspired by Vitalik Buterin's idea on prediction market and curation. The main difference is our unique algorithm that allows all bets to be done off-chain. So no transaction, providing a much better user experience. In this demo, we showcase a decentralized Web3 forum where all content is posted on IPFS and where anybody can post content or bet on them. The only requirement is an initial deposit.
The content posted on Blue Coati goes through a very simple lifecycle. Anyone who have deposited can bet during the betting period. A moderator would come in at a certain time to execute the judgment aligning with the community rules, which is an on-chain transaction. And then after that, any curators with a correct outcome would be motivated to submit their bets on-chain to deem their rewards.
So here I'm a content creator. So here in this web forum, I will simply enter a text and submit. And to do that, the only thing I require is a previous deposit, and then I sign the bet that the content will be approved by the moderator.
Now I've logged in as
it looks like we're having some
anyone who's browsing the platform with some deposit, and I feel like this post should be invalid, so I submit a.
Could you pause the video?
Signing. It just signs the bet, and this bet is then posted into
Ronan, looks like the internet.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I so we switched, but so I don't know. What do we do here?
Sorry, if it's the same video.
Hey,
let me-
I'm on. I could try.
Okay, if not, I can play it on my end. If it's the same video, you submit it, and we can just resume that if that's better. Does that work? I can.
Yeah.
Play it. All right, so I'll do that, and we'll just resume.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, okay, sorry. It looks like this is working. Just yeah, this seems to be fine. You can just
Okay.
Change to deal the rewards. So here I'm a content creator. So here in this web forum, I will simply enter a text and submit. And to do that, the only thing I require is a previous deposit, and then I sign the bet that the content will be approved by the moderator.
Now I've logged in as a curator, anyone who's browsing the platform with some deposit, and I feel like this post should be invalid. So I submit a off-chain signing. It just signs the bet, and this bet is then posted into IPFS.
So yeah, now I'm logged as DAO, as a moderator, and I look at the post and I see that one valid content has been downvoted. So I decide to make a judgment on this, and so I enter the post ID, and then I set valid, and then I basically make a transaction. For now, there is no staking implemented, but we could add that.
So now, as a creator and the first better, I've seen that the judge has decided that it was valid, and because it's been judged, so now I can submit this transaction. And basically deem my reward from this.
So that was the demo. A lot you don't see is the tech that we use behind the scenes. So first of all, we use the application run on IPFS. There is no server, and we use Freebox both for the identity. So if you see the icon, you use the Freebox, and then we also all the content, the bet and the post are stored on IPFS through Freebox. One of the main challenges we faced was about how do we ensure all bets are counted and that they can be used to prove invalidity and that they cannot remain hidden without risk of being used. So with a non-chain system, this would be easy as a bet would be on the storage. But for us, we had to find a way to ensure that. So we use a tree structure where bets are paired against each other. So for a bet to be immutable for reward, you need to have a bet that countersigns.
Awesome. So I know this was a slightly rough start at the beginning, but thanks for that really cool demo. And I'll see if our judges have any questions.
Hi.
All right. Hey, Ronan. It's Bryant. We've worked together before on Ethereum magicians and such. I think we've had some good arguments back and forth.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting project. So what do you think are the kind of potential use cases for this? Do you think it could help curate social media content with like the rampant disinformation campaigns that have been going on this year on like Facebook and Twitter and such?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, it's meant to be used as a spam prevention. So what Vitalik described in his blog post, I guess what we bring to the table is really the off-chain aspect, so that we don't have an issue with gas. It's just very easy for a user. It has no, you just click and sign a message. And then, yeah, but it can't be used for more. It needs to be used for spam, something that is obvious. As soon as it becomes unclear, then suddenly them can be more difficult because you bet on the prediction that something will be removed or not.
Yeah.
Your examples are all sort of people making these bets and predictions, but like I think the more interesting use case may be people coming up with their own prediction models and kind of duking it out for whose prediction model is better, and essentially using that to eventually inform much better models of just what would moderate content in general, right? Like it's almost like an open market for prediction modeling around
I mean,
around
yeah,
moderation.
I mean, we show it as a bet, but for the user, it's not really a bet. It's like I consider this content valid or not, and so we didn't really the demo doesn't showcase that. But the idea is that we wanted to actually to do that. We wanted to create. You can create your community, and you set the rules of the community. So it could be okay. There is only a picture of a cat alone, and then obviously if someone puts a picture of a dog, then everybody will vote that it's an invalid content because the rules are very clear. Yeah, but obviously maybe there is a cat and the dog hybrid in some sort, and then suddenly it becomes ambiguous. And in that case, that's where kind of the system maybe doesn't fail. But I think it works in most cases that we for Twitter or things that pornography or communities that don't want some stuff. I think it will work better than an algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really cool. It's far more efficient than doing everything on chain. I think so it'll have a lot of just interesting applications that a lot of people haven't really been thinking about. Yeah, what if you had more time, or are you going to turn this into a product?
Yeah, I mean, that will be great. I think it's something that I think crypto community is always waiting for, I feel like personally, and I think what I've heard. So it would be great. We could have a forum. I think a forum is a basic example, but it can be used for anything. It could be used for like an NFT marketplace where you don't want copycats to come. There is a lot of use case. So we did it as a system, but I think a good way to continue the project is to make a demo, like a actual application. I mean, and I think that a forum is what we went for and we like. But there's a lot to do still. Yeah.
One thing that could be cool is like a Chrome extension that sits on top of Twitter or something, right? Like, and then people can come and go in and like flag things and use the what you've built. I don't know, but yeah, I really like it. Nice job.
Good.
Awesome. Well, Ronan, Halsey, thank you so much for demoing, and I hope you continue working on this. And with that, we have our last demo for the day, and that is Project CoCreate. So I see Ezra and Alonso are here. I'll let them take it from here. Just so we know that things are working as planned, we don't have any audio here. So if the video has any audio, I think you forgot to check off the audio share box on Zoom. So I'll ask you to do that one more time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, no, I'm talking over the video, so I was
Okay,
talking over
perfect.
the video. So just give me 1 second. Yeah, so CoCreate allows musicians, songwriters, producers to work together. The idea is
we don't have the screen share now.
Just 1 sec. Sorry, for some reason I'm getting kicked out all the time. Okay.
There we go.
So,
Oh man, looks like you got some hot corners in there.
I can't figure out what's going on. Yeah, I've never seen this before. It's like it just keeps locking me out.
This usually happens if you have a hot corners enabled. So if you go all the way to the top right on your mouse, it'll just log yourself out. So prevent putting the mouse to any corners.
I usually do on the bottom left. Yeah, so maybe I'm doing it. Sorry, just 1 sec.
Third time's the charm.
Okay.
Let's go. Yes.
Okay. Now I'm still here. Hang on. Just let me get back to her. Right. Okay. So CoCreate allows musicians, songwriters, producers to work together. The idea is you collaborate, produce music together, and cut out the middleman, cut out record companies, managers, lawyers. So the idea is to agree the ownership rights on the chain. So work together to create the music on the chain. We built the technology using Fleeks, Space Daemon, Textile, Ethereum. So the idea is that you upload and download music from buckets on Textile. Now the reason we need IPFS is because there's like a crazy amount of data. So like a professional audio studio would have like hundreds of tracks. You'd have lots of backups. You have lots of different samples and things like that. So huge amounts of storage required to get up and down. So that's why we built it on IPFS. We built it as a mobile app. So here we'll just jump straight into the mobile app. What we wanted to do is create this kind of great UX for users. So it should feel like SoundCloud or like Spotify. You can log in, discover different tracks, search through tracks, look through different categories of music. Each of these would be music that somebody has created or they're working on. So you're basically discovering projects that you can collaborate on. And then what we also looked at is trying to make it as easy as possible. So when people come into the app, we built an onboarding flow here that you'll see here, which is basically just to kind of explain people what is it, right? So the idea is you've got songwriters. If somebody can help with lyrics, if somebody can, a musician can come along, if a producer can come along, we want to make it easy. And the idea is to share ownership and control of the music to co-create. So yeah, what we also wanted to do is we wanted to build it as a full mobile wallet. So a lot of the work we did was around integrating Trust Wallets, wallet code, so that you can, you create your own seed, you go through a workflow to verify your seed. So the whole thing is everything. You can download the app from the App Store and go straight into a workflow of being Web3 native.
Hello, in this example we are going to create two tokens that represent different parts of a song. These parts are going to be joined, creating a third token that will represent the full song. Let's check that the balance of our current owner is 0. Exactly. Let's create the token, the first token. Now it's created, so we should see 1. Okay, and let's create another token using a different account. Let's use this account. Okay, so let's create a token. Now we are going to join that tokens to create the third one, and the 51% of the ownership of the first token will be for the first owner and the 49% for the second one. So let's transact. Now let's check these values, that is the ownership percent. Now we see that it's 0 because the token is not created yet. Let's see percentage approved, that we see that is the 49% until we have at least the 50%, we can't create the token. So if we approve that transaction using the first account, that is the owner of the 51%, we will see that the token is going to be created. Now the token here, we should see that in the ownership percent that it's 51%, the token is already created. We can see the owners of the token. We see that it has 2 owners, the first account and the second one, and we also see that it's the 100% approved. So the third token has been created successfully and has two owners. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh.
I'll let our judges jump right in.
I thought it was pretty interesting, actually. I really like the idea that you're kind of representing people's collaborations as tokens that can kind of be composed with each other. As a suggestion, there's this standard called ERC998 that Matt Lockyer had worked on a couple years ago. I'm not sure if it's like a fresh standard, but it could help inform. It's about composing NFTs together, so it could help you out in some way.
Yeah, we did actually discover that. Yeah, I
Okay.
was Googling around. I sent that on, so I think Alonso was. We did look at that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's recent, but it's at least of interest.
Sure.
I also was curious if you had heard of this app called Audius.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Audius would be like a big part of how this feeds in. Like, I guess we look at this as disrupting the supply chain of how you create music, right? Audius is more about discovery and distribution, right? So we're at the other end of that. So it could feed into Audius, and I think something like Foundation as well is very interesting here in terms of
I
being able
haven't
to
heard of that
discover
one.
artists.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point that out too, as because they have an open API, they allow you to add new music into the system pretty easily. So it definitely seems like a natural fit if you're looking more at the supply side of the music and they're sort of attacking the demand side of music. But there's this natural artist focused aspect to it, I think, in both cases.
Yep, for sure.
So what isn't working yet?
Lots. We had a bit of a problem actually. The Web3, we built this in Swift, so the Web3 library we use for Swift, I think we just made the wrong choice. Didn't quite hook it together. So we're still working on getting that working. Basically, there was an issue, serialization issue. Like we picked one of all their Swift libraries. So just getting this hooked from the app talking to Ethereum is still working. We got the space daemon piece working, so we can upload files to buckets. We can pull down files to buckets. So that's in place. In terms of what I'd like to get working, the other bits that I think we want to work on next are just the whole flow of just managing the negotiation of rights, and we'd love to get Aragon built into this as well, right? So the idea would be that as more musicians collaborate on a song, the song becomes a DAO, and then you can use Aragon to manage like how the rights there, so people can vote on different activities on a song, like I said. So and each song could then be forked, and a song could end up being forked as multiple DAOs that have different owners with different rights, and exist in different ways. So I think there's just some of the ideas that we'd like to work on.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. Yeah, maybe one slight alternative or additional way that you could take this too is with podcasts, right? I think there's a lot of like collaboration opportunities that could happen with podcasts, and I think you've got a community here in Web3 especially who's super into podcasts. But yeah, great job.
Yeah, like imagine if you had a guest on and like they shared 49% or whatever of that particular episode, and if that particular episode did really well, then they get more of the share,
Totally.
Amazing. So I want to thank CoCreate and everybody else who presented today. So congrats on demoing, and that concludes our final day of judging. So thanks again to all of our judges and everybody else who's going to watch this recording after. We're super excited for our finale. That's going to be next Tuesday. We're going to be showing our top 10 teams. So with that, I want to thank everybody again for giving us their time, and we'll see you later. See everybody.
Bye-bye.